In Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, the R-Rarity cards are some of the easiest ones to get in the game because it's very easy to get enough duplicate rare cards in order to craft whatever you want. And luckily, there are a lot of pretty decent staple cards you can pick up in the R-Rarity. So, in this list, we'll be going over 10 of the best cards you can craft very easily and include in pretty much any deck. And at number 10, we have Phantom Knight's Fogblade. This is a continuous trap card which has the effect where you can target one effect monster in the field and equip with this card, where that monster's effects are negated and it cannot attack. Also, other monsters cannot target the monster for attacks. Additionally, it has the graveyard effect that only works within the Phantom Knight's archetype, which allows you to special summon a Phantom Knight's monster from your graveyard, but it's not on this video for that graveyard effect. That's just a bonus within Phantom Knights. Now, what makes Phantom Knight's Fogblade a pretty good staple is just the versatility in which it can be used. Usually the card is only used with other Phantom Knight cards because they can search it out pretty easily, and Phantom Knights are a pretty splashable engine. Although the Phantom Knight's Fogblade is useful on its own because it can be used to negate a monster's effect or stall out a whole battle phase. You see, while a monster is equipped with Fogblade and their effect is being negated, it also can't be targeted for attacks. Which means, if that's the only monster you have on your side of the field, and it has a Fogblade on it, then your opponent just can't attack at all. This also means the same for your opponent's monsters, where if you do use it on one of your opponent's monsters to negate its effects, you have to find some way to get rid of that monster or Fogblade before you're actually able to attack over it, which is normally not a problem for most meta decks, as one of the requirements for being a meta deck is just having some form of removal anyway. And Fogblade is just a great disruption tool, so you don't really care very much about the downsides of the effect. So because Fogblade can be used as both a disruption tool with its effect negation and as a way to protect you during the battle phase, it's usually used over Fiendish Chain, which is able to accomplish a similar thing, just without the battle phase full stop interactions, as it also permanently negates the effect of one monster that it's equipped to and stops that one monster from attacking. And Fiendish Chain is also a rare quality card, which can be crafted pretty easily if you don't want to use Fogblade, but want to use some cheap effect negation that stops attacks. And at number 9, we have Planet Pathfinder. This is a level 4 machine monster with the effect where you can tribute this card to add a field spell card from your deck to your hand. Now, it's not the best way to search out a field spell card in the game, but the best ways to search out field spells in the game are all higher rarity. Both Terraforming and Metaverse are ultra rares, and additionally limited to 1 copy per deck. The second best choices after those two is Demise of the Land, which is a super rare card. So, if you're playing a deck that really needs to search out a field spell card, this spot is just to remind you that Planet Pathfinder exists. In fact, there are some meta decks already that play Planet Pathfinder alongside Terraforming, because Planet Pathfinder and Terraforming are the only field searchers you can reliably activate on your first turn, whereas Metaverse and Demise of the Land require them to be activated during your opponent's turn, or for you to lock in on your opponent's special summoning monsters during your first turn in the case with Demise of the Land. And today's video is brought to you by HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a service which sends you fresh ingredients every week that you can cook yourself based on the instructions they give you, so that you can actually cook healthy meals, without having to worry too much about meal prep or correct portion sizes, so you're not wasting any ingredients. If you've ever tried to follow a recipe you find online to cook something, usually you have to overbuy a whole bunch of different kinds of foods required because normal grocery stores just don't sell them at whatever amounts you want. So this is always one of my favorite things about HelloFresh, is not having to worry about any waste or having extra vegetables that I know I'm not gonna eat. Especially since I like to have a couple of my meals every week be home-cooked meals. That way I can avoid ordering too much fast food. And having a meal prep service is really the only way that I can actually motivate myself to actually cook for myself. So, if you want to start eating healthier, use my link to go to HelloFresh.com and use POG-DuelLogs16 for up to 16 free meals plus 3 surprise gifts across 6 HelloFresh boxes, plus free shipping. Gifts include free appetizers, free desserts, and free premium recipes. At number 8, we have Gadarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju. Now, what this card does is, if it's in your hand, you contribute one of your opponent's monsters in order to give this card to your opponent from your hand. Then it has a couple of other effects, which is rarely used with this card, but I'll go over them anyway, where, if your opponent controls a Kaiju monster, you can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field. Also, you can only control 1 Kaiju monster total, and it has an effect where you can remove 3 Kaiju counters from anywhere on the field in order to permanently cut the attack and defense of all other monsters in the field in half. Now, the only reason people use Gadarla is because it's the 3rd lowest attack Kaiju monster. All Kaijus share the effect where they contribute one of your opponent's monsters to summon themselves to your opponent's side of the field. And this is an excellent form of removal because it gets rid of pretty much any monster in the game. There are only a handful of monsters which have protections from Kaijus tributing them, and almost none of them see regular competitive play. So if your opponent has a big, scary boss monster that's really oppressive, you can use a Kaiju in order to get rid of it without any problems, because you can't properly respond to the summon of a monster, so there's no way to actually negate the tribute since it's a requirement for the Kaiju to come out. And because the main use of a Kaiju monster is to just give it to your opponent, you want the monster to have the lowest attack possible, which is why normally the Sea Turtle Kaiju is the most used Kaiju, when just trying to use it for a form of removal, because it has the lowest attack power value of 2200. But in Master Duel, Gamma Seal is of a super rare quality card, and so is the second lowest attack Kaiju, Humongous the Sticky String Kaiju. So the third lowest attack Kaiju is Gadarla the Mystery Dust Kaiju, which happens to be of rare quality and is much easier to craft than the other two, and is just as good at doing the same job of getting rid of your opponent's unbeatable boss monsters. And at number 7, we have Lost Wind. This is a normal trap card which has the effect where you can target one special summon monster on the field in order to both negate that monster's effect and cut its original attack in half permanently. So it's a very strong monster negation. Not many of these kinds of effects last forever. Additionally, if this card is in your graveyard and a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck, you're able to set this card from your graveyard to your field, but then it's banished when it leaves the field after that. So Lost Wind is an inherent +1 in card advantage because you're able to use the effect twice, or gain the effect from the graveyard if it's milled through some kind of card effect. And the effect is very good, useful against pretty much any meta deck. There is another card in the game called Titanocider with a very similar effect, where it also negates the effect of a monster and lowers its attack, but is able to lower the monster's attack to 0 instead of just cutting it in half. And also comes back from the graveyard once when a monster is special summoned from the extra deck. However, Titanocider only works on extra deck monsters, and Lost Winds works on any special summon monster. And Titanocider is a super rare card, whereas Lost Winds is only of a rare quality. So they're both good, but Lost Winds is definitely more easy to get, and definitely one of the better trap cards you can craft at this rarity, although surprisingly, doesn't have as much play as some of the other ones which we'll be talking about later. And at number 6, we have Dimensional Fissure. This is a continuous spell card which has the effect where all monsters that would be sent to the graveyard are banished instead. Now, most meta decks have monsters which want to go to the graveyard in order to activate their effects, or to use monsters in the graveyard as a resource later on to do other things. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically uses the graveyard as a second hand. So, having one card which basically gets rid of that is incredibly good, to the point where Dimensional Fissure is limited in the TCG to only one copy per deck because of how good that floodgate is. But for some reason it's unlimited to 3 copies in the OCG and therefore Master Duel, and is only of rare quality. So if you want a super good floodgate that's of a lower rarity, Dimensional Fissure is your best bet. And at number 5, we have Paleozoic Dinomischus. This is a trap card which has the effect where you can discard one card from your hand in order to banish one face-up card on the field. Then, if this card is in your graveyard, if a trap card is activated, you can special summon this card from your graveyard as a normal monster with 1200 attack, which has the lingering effect that it's immune to monster effects, and then it's banished if it leaves the field afterwards. So, what's great about Paleozoic Dinomischus when compared to something like Raigeki Break or even Karma Cut is the fact that Dinomischus both banishes the card that it targets, and is able to target any face-up card on the field instead of just monsters or spells. Raigeki Break is also a rare quality trap card with a similar versatile effect, where you can discard one card to destroy any one card on the field, but being able to banish a card is better than being able to destroy it. And Karma Cut can banish a monster from the field and all copies of that card from the graveyard, but being able to have the option to choose spells and traps is better than only being able to banish a monster. Because you never know if your opponent has a skill drain out on the field, and you just really need to banish that card. And then you just get the added bonus where it comes back later on from the graveyard as a +1, and can be used for link plays or whatever else you're doing. And at number 4, we have Mystical Space Typhoon. This is a quick play spell card which destroys any spell trap card on the field, and because it's a quick play spell card, you can use it immediately when you have it in your hand, or wait for your opponent's turn in order to maybe disrupt plays. And that's pretty much why the card has seen play pretty much throughout all of its history of existing in the game. Mystical Space Typhoon has been power crept by some more better cards, but all the power crept versions are of higher rarity, and Mystical Space Typhoon is still good, despite being power crept. And since a lot of the meta in Master Duel is done with no side decking, a lot of decks are choosing to run spell trap card removal in their main deck, and the best lowest rarity versions of spell trap card removal you can get is Mystical Space Typhoon. So it's currently seen a lot of play in a whole bunch of different decks because it's still good, even if there are technically more versatile or better effects in the game and it's easy to get. And at number 3, we have Compulsory Evacuation Device. This is a trap card which has the effect where you can simply target one monster on the field and then return that target to the hand. So if you use this card on an extra deck monster, it's basically a form of removal which gets rid of that card advantage. Whereas if you only use it on a main deck monster to return it to their actual hand, you could just be giving them a resource back. So the best way to use Compulse is just to use it on an extra deck monster in order to get rid of it without destroying it, which is an important distinction because a lot of monsters have immunity to destruction effects. And the best part about Compulsory Evacuation device is the fact that it's a straight 1-for-1 in trading that can be done during your opponent's turn to disrupt plays. And additionally, one that's completely generic and usable in any deck without any kind of setup. Technically, Dogmatica Punishment, another Rarity card, also trades 1-for-1 with its effect and sees a lot more play than Compulse, as Dogmatica Punishment is able to destroy one of your opponent's monsters if you send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard with an attack equal to or higher than that monster's. But the most useful part of Dogmatica Punishment is in combination with ultra rare cards like Elder Entity Natis to destroy a card and Titanclad the Ash Dragon to special summon during the end phase. Plus, the card locks you out of special summoning from the extra deck during your next turn. And other cards which trade generically usually have a discard cost associated to it, like Paleozoic Dinomischus from earlier. And because Compulse is just excellent removal, being usable in every deck, and doesn't really have any side effects, I'm honestly surprised this card is only of the rare quality because it's pretty useful, and too powerful to be added to even Duel Links yet, even if it doesn't actually see super much play, because if you only have the option to play a handful of traps, there's not really a reason to run a 1-for-1 trade like Compulse over just destroying all of your opponent's cards, like the next spot on this list. And at number 2, we have Torrential Tribute. This is a trap card which has the effect where, if the condition is met that a monster was just summoned, either yours or your opponent's, you can then destroy all monsters on the field. And being able to destroy all monsters in the field during your opponent's turn is an excellent way to disrupt plays, which is why Torrential Tribute sees a whole bunch of competitive play, and is probably the most played rare quality trap card in the game, currently, as of looking at the date of the game that's been out for less than a week when researching the script. In fact, I was surprised to see Torrential Tribute as only a rare quality card in Master Duel, because they made pretty much all of the other commonly played staples much higher rarities, and Torrential Tribute still sees play in the normal modern TCG. So of course it would have a ton of play in Master Duel as well, and even in decks that don't use the spell card which can search it out. And at number 1, we have Forbidden Chalice. This is a quick play spell card which allows you to target any face-up monster in the field in order to both negate that monster's effects and increase his attack by 400 until the end of the turn. Now, the reason this card sees a lot of competitive play is basically because of its ability to negate a monster effect. Rarely do you actually use the effect in order to increase the attack of one of your monsters by 400, because 400 is kind of a minor attack boost. However, because Forbidden Chalice technically does have an effect that increases attack, it's able to be used during the damage step. You see, the damage step is a really complicated phase in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where pretty much nothing works in the damage step, except for cards that specifically say they work during the damage step, counter traps, and cards which specifically increase or decrease the attack or defense of a monster. So if you want to negate the effect of one of your opponent's monsters, but they have a whole bunch of negates on board ready to go, what you could do is enter the battle phase and just attack something randomly. Then, during the damage step, you can use Forbidden Chalice on that one monster you want to negate for the rest of the turn, which is kind of a very convoluted way to go about it. Normally, the card's just used to negate that one negate your opponent monster has, because what are they going to do? Waste their one hard, once per turn negate on Forbidden Chalice when their effect is about to be negated anyway? It's basically a way to just negate a choice monster effect to set up your plays during your turn, since you can use it immediately from your hand since it's a quick play spell card, even if a lot of the better effect negation cards in the game are trap cards. So you're inherently limited how fast you can actually use those ones. For example, technically it is better to just use Lost Wind, but since you can use Forbidden Chalice immediately as soon as you get it, it's used more often. Although there are better cards which are able to do a similar effect, more specifically Dark Ruler No More or Forbidden Droplet, but both of those cards are ultra rare quality, and Forbidden Chalice is good enough. So it's currently one of the most played rare quality staples, and that's why it takes the number 1 spot on this list. Alright, and that's the list. I'm currently playing a ton of Master Duel, so I'll probably have a couple of other Master Duel related videos coming out soon. So, if you have any ideas for future Master Duel related videos just like this one, then I'd love to hear about them down in the comments.